Change. You may not like it, but you can't stop it. Especially lately. So much change has happened. Schools had to go virtual. Graduation ceremonies were just not the same. Businesses have shut down. Many people were forced to work from home, and some plan to work from home for the foreseeable future. We've had no sports. Vacations have been ruined. Large gatherings have been canceled. I mean, you have to wear a mask just about everywhere you go. And overall, people are just more edgy and emotional. Everything just seems to be upside down. And some people absolutely cannot handle change. They just don't do well with any sort of change at all. For some people, just the thought of change sends them into a tailspin, and they'll do everything they can to run from it. Some just have a difficult time dealing with the different emotions and feelings that surface during change. Change disrupts our flow, our routines, the way things are for us. And it's understandable why we sometimes feel the way we do about change. There is a sense of comfort and security that comes with being able to settle into a routine that you can just coast through. See, our routines make things seem more predictable. We feel like we know what to expect. And the security we experience, whether it's real or just a false sense, helps us manage and cope with life and life's circumstances. But here's the thing. Do you just want to be able to cope with life? Do you want to just make it from one moment to the next? Are you okay with just settling? Or do you want to thrive and live an abundant life regardless of the circumstances? See, I think it's possible. And Jesus came to show us how it was possible. Jesus said, I came that you may have life and have it abundantly. But it's not going to be based on material things, like what we own, where we live, what kind of job we have. And people have been looking for it for centuries in these things. And, well, no one has found it in any of this stuff yet. Now, while these things can be fun, admittedly, enjoyable, they can, say, enhance our experiences. But this enhancement only lasts for a limited time until we need to replace them so that they can have the same effect. More and more ends up being needed. And I think it's a part of why Jesus said to not lay up for yourself treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. And then he said, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And there it is. See, I believe if you want to go beyond just coping, or if you want to not feel like you're being controlled by every circumstance, you have to look within. You have to look within, because experiencing the abundant life is contingent on the condition of your heart, which means change might be necessary for you. In this video, I want to just talk about change in general and how it can be a good thing, whether we're talking about small or big changes. I want to give you just a few things to think about when it comes to change. How even intentionally making small changes can be positive experiences. I want to give you a positive way to view changes that may take you out of your comfort zone. Now, this isn't a comprehensive talk about change. It's not even about any particular kind of change. I really just want to offer you some new perspectives on change that might be helpful through certain transitions in life that have to happen, that need to happen, or that are out of our control. So let's begin. First of all, remember this. Change can open doors to new opportunities and experiences. It can help you see new possibilities that you might not have seen before. It can help you see maybe even a better way of doing things. You can look at change as just simply an invitation to experiencing something new. This is at the heart of what we call the gospel. It's an invitation to a better way, to experiencing something better. See, the New Testament letters are filled with invitations for people to come and experience something new, a new way of being, of living, of seeing, of doing. It's an invitation to maybe experience something they have not experienced before. And at least in the case of the New Testament letters, the writers claim this new experience is far the best and will be better than what they have experienced. So it might be helpful to see change as an invitation to experience something new, and it may end up being something better. Secondly, change can have a domino effect. One little change can lead to another change. For example, simply consider the effect that changing what we put into our minds can have on our moods. Let's say watching the news stresses you out or makes you depressed. So instead of turning on the news, you decide to have a conversation with your spouse, your child, or a friend. Or you go outside for a walk. See, this small change can lead you to feeling better all the way around. Now, imagine the big changes that could happen if we focus on things that are above, just little by little. See, it can fill our hearts with things that are good and honorable and just and holy. We start seeing the good in things and people and situations, even situations that are not ideal. And this affects how we act and respond and speak. And the more we do this, the more it begins to become a natural thing for us. Over time, of course. Another thing to consider is by embracing change, we can learn to be more fluid and go with the flow. And let's face it, sometimes that is the best thing to do. There are times when we need to be more flexible, but we're stubborn. And by not being flexible, it really adds more stress on us and on the situation. And instead, learning to embrace change can help us become more flexible and maybe not make as big of a deal out of small things. It's one of the ways we're able to live peaceably with all. Also, change can keep things interesting. It can keep things from becoming boring or just rote. And let's face it, that happens. And it has an effect on us. And this goes back to what I said earlier about having new experiences and how experiences can change us. One of my favorite quotes is by Mark Twain, who wrote, "Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness." And many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime. Now, while we may not have the luxury, especially right now, of traveling to different cultures around the world, I think it states the principle very clearly. When we experience new things that take us out of our normal comfort zones, it puts us in a different position to see things in new ways. It can open our eyes to not only things about ourselves, but about the world. It gives us new perspectives. And I imagine the Apostle Paul was a man who experienced this firsthand. Think about what he was able to accomplish across cultural bounds. As a Jew in the first century, he was able to speak across cultural norms and run alongside various traditions and worldviews. And doing so, He was able to walk with many people through the changes they needed. I mean, just pick up any of his letters we find in the New Testament, and this is what you will see. Another thing to consider is that change means bad situations won't last forever. Think about it. The fact that things can change gives us hope. Granted, there are situations where we won't change, and other situations where we resist change. But if change is inevitable, remember, change is always possible, and so it doesn't mean that things will be this way forever. Besides, this change might have a way of improving other things about your life that you are not aware of in the moment. It could actually be a good thing. Now, with that being said, change can also be an invitation to move on, to leave some things behind. Whether it's a toxic relationship or a job or even a habit, an old lifestyle, change can be an invitation to a fresh start. And that's good news. It's the core concept of repentance. As one writer put it, change documents the passage of time. It's often when we look back at those documented moments in our own lives that we see growth, the progress we have made. We become more and more aware of the transformation that is taking place within us, and it can be motivating to continue moving forward. So change actually documents the transformation process that we go through. And finally, some change is inevitable, and the more acclimated we become to change, the easier it is to deal with the changes that are out of our control. So that's just a few things to consider when it comes to change. It's not a comprehensive digest on change, and admittedly, sometimes change is not good. Sometimes change can be harmful. And what I have mentioned may not necessarily fit every situation, but this does offer a more positive spin on some change that might be beneficial to you. And here's why it's important. Sometimes when we resist change, we are saying no to God. We might be resisting the very thing God has sent our way to help bring about the transformation needed in our lives. You see, change is a central part of being a disciple of Jesus. And as Christians, we should really be accustomed to, change.